not feel that it could be appropriate for us to take part in the oral presentation when a majority of you have refused to accept our written submissions. And we have Mr. Taylor's instructions to that effect.
If Mr. Taylor thinks he can make orders or disobey orders of this court at his will, simply on the basis that it's in his best interest to do so, then he's running this court, not us. Now, don't tell us that you were at the 11th hour prevented from filing a final trial brief.
I have made a decision, so has my client, and we intend to leave.
Please sit down.
We've decided not to participate in these closing arguments because, as far as we're concerned, it's a complete farce, given that the judges won't have the foundational information enclosed in our written submissions. How will posterity judge the credibility of this court if, at this 11th hour, they prevented Mr. Taylor from presenting, what, 90-odd% of his closing arguments, which are enclosed in the written submission? Mr. Taylor, from day one, was arguing that powerful states, in particular the United States and Britain, were anxious to secure his conviction. You guys know that. Then in December, we have that WikiLeaks cable from the US ambassador in Monrovia, which confirms what we'd been saying all along. Because that WikiLeaks cable says, in effect, Taylor has to be convicted, he has to be given a long sentence, and if he isn't, the US government should be taking steps to ensure that they can put him on trial in the United States in order to keep him out of West Africa.
Can I note the appearance of the principal defender, Ms. Hansel?
Yes, Your Honours.
I also note that the accused does not appear to be in court. I don't see him.
Yes, the accused presently is not in court. He has dispensed with appearance for today.
He has an option to dispense with appearance, are you saying?
Well, I spoke with him during the break, and he informs me that he wanted to go back for personal reasons.
There was an order made this morning that he remain in court. He was not granted permission to be absent. I will take it, therefore, that he has deliberately both flouted that order and absented himself voluntarily.
Thank you, Your Honour. The trial chamber is satisfied that as of August 1997, the accused knew of the atrocities being committed against civilians in Sierra Leone by the RUF-AFRC forces and of their propensity to commit crimes. Notwithstanding such knowledge, the accused continued to provide support to the RUF and RUF-AFRC forces during the period that crimes were being committed in Sierra Leone. The trial chamber therefore finds beyond reasonable doubt that the accused knew that his support to the RUF-AFRC would provide practical assistance, encouragement or moral support to them in the commission of crimes during the course of their military operations in Sierra Leone. For the foregoing reasons, the trial chamber finds beyond reasonable doubt that the accused is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 6.1 of the statute for aiding and abetting the commission of the crimes set forth in counts 1 to 11 of the indictment.
Hello, you're watching International Business Times UK. I'm Marverine Cole. The ex-president of Liberia, Charles Taylor, has been convicted of war crimes after a trial by international judges at The Hague, which has lasted 5 years. He was accused of supporting and directing rebels who raped, pillaged and murdered 50,000 people during the Sierra Leone civil war between 1991 and 2002. Taylor was president of Liberia from 1997 to 2003. He was accused of giving orders to rebels from the Revolutionary United Front in Sierra Leone, who recruited child soldiers to help orchestrate and carry out horrific widespread killings, torture and terrorism, scenes which were recounted by hundreds of trial witnesses. Sar Lamin lost his leg after stepping on a landmine in his home of Freetown. He said Taylor must be found guilty. He must not be released because his hand was in our war. I am like this today because rebels from his country attacked and drove us from our home. Taylor was also accused of financing rebels' war effort from the proceedings of so-called blood diamonds. He could now face life in a British maximum security prison. That's it from me for now, but for all the latest developments on this story and many more, check out our website, ibtimes.co.uk.
The impact of the war on Sierra Leoneans, when you look at the level of harm that was done to civilians, the cutting off of the arms and legs of civilians, it's a very sad thing. And as First Lady, I want to say that I still don't see the connection of how he could be held responsible for those things done in Sierra Leone when they were actually done by Sierra Leonean armed forces. I'm sorry that things happened the way they did in Sierra Leone, but it's hard to be responsible for rape in Liberia and someone gets raped in Sierra Leone. And these are some of the issues, rape and torture, that he was not personally involved with. As a layperson sitting outside and watching the trial, I didn't see that clear indication without a reasonable doubt that this person was involved. I don't think he should be held responsible for problems in Sierra Leone. However, if you talk about the crisis in Liberia, for which he was head of, then that's a different story. Our country has gone through a very difficult process. There is still much left to be done. Our country is still not reconciled. I do not think a war crimes code for Liberia would be the best thing. We are a very small country made up of less than maybe 4 million persons. And the interrelatedness of the families are so tight. If you drag one person to court, the families that are attached, it will just have a ripple effect. Of course, the war didn't come out of the sky. There were shortfalls in previous governments that created a platform that people felt they had no other option, and it escalated in what we had. And whether you were involved fully in arranging the war, whether you sat on the side and say, hey, I'm not a part of what's going on, we've all played a role somehow. And I think we should just leave it where it is and move forward. How do you ensure that whether you live here or whether you live somewhere else, there's safe drinking water and there's electricity and that there are jobs? I think that's where our energies need to be. It can no longer be about the past. I would hate to see a war crimes code brought to Liberia. It will not reconcile us. It will not bring back the past. It will not pay for the destruction of our nation. And it will definitely not put back the fabric of our country that has been destroyed as a result. There are different aspects to all of us. And so when you ask the question, who is Charles Taylor? I guess we must look at it in the different aspects. If you look at him as a father, he loved his children, he wanted the best, and he had a good relationship with them. So you can imagine how distraught they feel. He became the focal point of the Taylor family. He took care of everyone. So we all miss him at different levels in the family. But then people on the other side could say, well, there are plenty of families in Sierra Leone where the fathers and the mothers have been killed as a result of the war. There are families here in Liberia who've lost entire members of their families. And there's no way we can bring it back. As an elder statesman, president of a nation, you will find out that the different segments of our population had a personal relationship with him. So I think he's someone who is loved by the people because of the way he interacted with them. I think he's still very popular in Liberia. The experience wasn't an easy one. I mean, even from the early stages of the war, coming into Liberia and fighting your way, and finally becoming president and saying, okay, now I have a chance, only to be disenfranchised and ending up where he is. I think if he's given a chance to come home, that he will spend the rest of his time in getting to know his children and his grandchildren, and just living a life of peace and maybe being the elder statesman. When people talk about the person with the greatest responsibility, for example, who are those people? I think soldiers and civilians who got caught up in the war didn't have a choice. There are no arm factories on the African continent. Who raised the arms? Who provided the funding that began this process? A lot of them are in Western countries around the world, some here at home, that have now become the darlings of the West, and some of them are not even being questioned on the roles that they play. However, this is where we are. We now have the first African head of state indicted and taken to The Hague, and that will forever remain a part of the Liberian history. If this was something right or fair or equitable, I guess history will judge it.